NBT SKY, and so I am doing like a little, part 2 to the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So in the first numerology report that I didn't know anything about the guy that was attempting to assassinate Donald Trump, right? So I decided that we're going to look at this chart right here because I kept seeing that Aries type of energy. Come to find out, he's not an Aries. So we got that out the way. What you see is in pink, you see Thomas Matthews' little line on the chart. So it's showing you Mercury, Virgo. So it's a little bit consistent, but you see at the end of it, you'll see a little bit of Mars energy sitting over there, right? With a little bit of Saturn energy and a little bit of like 1 degree or so into Jupiter. So the thing that I found interesting was that this Aries energy comes up and is directly across from his Virgo energy, and the Aries energy is a little bit consistent until you get to the end. So you got this Mars energy that dominates, then it's Aries, and it's Mars, then Aries, and then you go into Jupiter and it's Mars, that Mars or Jupiter on the chart. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. So this is talking about the Thomas Matthew guy. So then when you look into Trump, right? Trump is a Gemini. He got a little bit of Aquarius, which makes sense. You know, he's very political, communicates. He got this sun energy, which kind of, gets into his Jupiter, but it brings him into Saturn and a little bit of Mars too. So that's that aggressive energy that he has, including his little Saturn energy, his ability to create in reality. And then, they got this Gemini, this twin energy, right? But it brings you into Mercury. Now, the thing that's interesting is that the person that's trying to assassinate him is clearly opposing to any of his views. And it created this opposite kind of effect, bringing him to the top of the board where you don't see a color. But if you look directly to the opposite end of the yellow, you're going to see that it brings him into this Saturn, Capricorn, Jupiter, Capricorn, back into the Mercury energy, and then you have Venus sitting there. Clearly, this is obviously not meant to be. So when we get back into it, we're looking at this Aries energy, right? And it's in the first house. So we talk about the personality and temperament, appearance, and health. This is a discussion when you talk about the Thomas Matthew Crooks guy, right? It discusses his mental health, him being isolated, him being bullied, his personality flips him smooth into his Aries Mars energy kind of thing. And, the political disagreements are triggered. Now, in the 6th house, which is where he actually is born in the 6th house, you talk about service, occupation, his employees, his illness, and food. And so, I didn't really pay attention exactly to what occupation they stated that he had, but it's close. Anyway, and then you have Trump into his mentality, expression, communication, and short trip, which obviously he's on a short trip because he doesn't live in Pennsylvania, right? And his mentality and the way he expresses himself and communicates, right? This flips him into the 10th house, into the 10th house when Thomas decides that he's gonna try to attempt to assassinate, right? And so this brings Trump back into this public reputation, his profession, the people that's around him, and authorities, and all of that was around him. But this brings him back. It kind of jumps his public reputation, throwing him into the 10th house for a little while. Anyway, right? So we got to that. So we're going to do a little bit of numerology. I just found it to be a little bit interesting with his chart situation. I thought it was a little bit different, let's say. So now this comparison is basically only the name and the date of birth, and then the date of the incident, right, which is also Thomas's date of death kind of issue, right? Meanwhile, if Thomas flips into the Aries, this will also affect the way he thinks. So this is the brain area. He tries to hit the head area. So you see how it all works out, right? So now we got Donald Trump. He breaks down to 23 and 5, bring him to Mercury, and you got Trump. And I'm only using his name short right now, and it's the Uranus and Neptune energy. So it brings his high number, his high frequency into Jupiter, his middle frequency into Jupiter, right? And then his low frequency is at 0, which is bringing the Fool, is with precaution, with a warning, but always new journeys, right? And then you have Jupiter bringing you in this fire energy, this Wheel of Fortune energy, and we know that Trump is a wealthy guy. And so he stays in his Wheel of Fortune and is always on new adventures regardless. Everybody knows that, even though it's a 2, so 2 zeros, 3 zeros, it's always necessary for contemplation with Trump. Now, when we're looking at Thomas Matthew Crooks, right? His zeros is 4. He has 4 zeros. It's always a requirement to be balanced, but he's in Saturn energy, this world energy, this earth energy. There's nothing wrong with Saturn. Saturn is dealing with the building, from the beginnings. So his beginnings is in there. You have Saturn in his first name. You have Pluto, and you have Pluto in his last name. So it's letting you know that there's this cold kind of temperament with him, and it's bringing you into this judgment energy regardless. So his views and how he dealt with the physical reality was still going to bring him to this judgment process for those of us who like tarot. That's why I'm dealing with the majors, right? So now let's look at the birthdays. We got Trump's birthday, and we know he's a Gemini, and it brings him into his 22 and 4, his master building energy, right? But the Gemini comes in the sun, and it also comes in this Ten of Swords energy, which is that, stabbed in the back, failure, fall down kind of energy that always tries to follow him. And so he's kind of aware that the sun kind of blisses on that. He's aware of that, right? So then we have this Venus energy that's in his birthday. And when we're dealing with that, we're dealing with the Empress, the mother. We're dealing with wealth, the Empress. This is since his existence. But it also deals with family and so on and so forth, right? So we get into the Mercury in Trump's birthday, which matches in his first name, right? So we're talking about this Mercury energy, and I didn't even bring it over here. I don't know where it's at right now. But even in the Mercury energy, you're still talking about this ability to communicate and change things around. Outside of that, you got this double moon energy. When you add the month and the day together in a year, you got this moon energy. So there's always going to be aspects surrounding Trump that we don't know about. Now, meanwhile, I didn't break it all the way down for you. What you will see is that in his birthday is Saturn dominant. When you get into the high frequencies, the medium frequency and the low frequency is very balanced in his Saturn. His ability to create in the physical reality is just that simple. He has the same thing over here, but it's not in his low frequency. So when it comes to the possibility that Thomas Matthew Crooks could have created and built in the physical reality properly, yes, it's possible. They just were non-agreeable energies at the end of the day. Now, when we look at Thomas Crooks' birthday, it comes down to the 7, the Uranus, the Neptune, the Fool, the Hangman energy. So, there's a sense of recklessness that always was going to come or manifest with him, especially if he's flipping from his natural line into this Aries Mars energy, right? Which will put him in that position where he kind of sacrificed himself for what he felt like he believed in, thinking that he was going to sacrifice or get rid of Trump, which accidentally flipped Trump into the upper part of the chart and made him the talk of the town, which is definitely not conducive to what Thomas Matthews thought he was getting ready to get to. Now, we got the Gemini energy, we got the Virgo and the Mercury and the Ten of Coins. So, you know, they kind of decent when it comes to money and the ability to create, which validates that. They can do that. This Pluto energy comes in the month. So it's a rough, kind of cold kind of energy, even though in tarot it comes up in Judgment and it comes up in the fire. Then you have the day, which brings in the moon, the high priestess, the moon secret. So this is something that he's sneaky planned out to do, trying to use a method where people surrounding Trump wouldn't pick it up. It comes up again in the 11 and the 2, that month and day together coming into the 11 and 2, the high priestess still stands there. So it lets you know this is a sneaky energy. This is one that tried to get a one up and it didn't work, and then the Mercury is revalidated again, bringing you this magician energy. And of course, Trump got his magician energy also, right? So in this, the Mercury comes up in his year. 2003 raising a 5 comes up into his year. So, you know, all of these things would trigger him to want to be able to manipulate his way through a situation regardless. So then you got his high frequency, which is the Fool and the Hangman, which is just validating what's going on in his birthday, what's going on in these frequencies, right? He was going to, either way, whether it was Trump or someone else, he was going to take his frustrations out on somebody one way or the other, because it's just a pile up. On top of that is a flip in energy, and he accidentally defeated the purpose of what he was trying to do and flipped Trump up into where he wanted to be regardless. So what you see here is the name and date of birth. This is between name and date of birth. These are the places where the planets came up equal for both of them, and they were non-agreeable kind of areas. So how they see reality, how Trump displays reality versus how he see reality, non-agreeable. Their aggression, non-agreeable. One may have been against certain aspects, certain aggressions, wars, things of that nature, where the other one, where Trump is like, listen, excuse my language, but if need be, I'll tear a nigga ass up, excuse my language, right? And then you have this Saturn energy, right, which is an earth energy, which will bring you in this Three of Coins is not necessarily associated, but it brings you into that that earthy kind of energy, right? This Three of Coins. Who's given to whom? What group of individuals are given to whom? Who's taken from who? They did not have an agreement on it. Their ideas wasn't different. Their political wasn't the same. Their political ideas wasn't the same. Their ideas of creating reality, money, wealth is not exactly the same. Their ideas of happiness is not the same. Their ideas of Trump, or his idea of Trump being politically clear, is not the same. More so, Thomas felt like his display is a little bit blinding, let's say. At the end of the day, these are the non-agreeable areas that was most likely to trigger the situation. Could it, mental health? Yeah, it matches all up in there, regardless of the fact, because it comes up in Pluto when it's in a negative aspect, regardless of the fact. The reality of it all is that, you know, whether we agree on who goes into office or who does not go into office, this attempted assassination by Thomas Matthew Crooks was a waste of time, because it flipped Trump back into the 10th house and made his public appearance look a little bit cuter than what Thomas was trying to get achieved. So it was a pointless endeavor, a pointless attempt, and it didn't put Trump in a position to back down at all. It, was a point to be made, sure, but it just did the total opposite. And so that's what we're gonna have to learn from this situation. It did not equate to what Thomas was trying to get done. At the end of the day, it actually just made it a little bit better for Trump. So it defeated the purpose. Anyway, this is me, NBT SKY, deuces. You already know. I owe y'all some bone throws and some tarot reading. So we're going to get up on that. Talk to y'all later. Smooches.